Have you ever felt like you're just stuck? You're working harder than ever, you're putting in all the hours, but your career just seems to have hit a wall. You're doing everything you're supposed to, but that next level, it just feels out of reach. Well, it turns out the key to breaking through that plateau isn't always about working harder. It's about working smarter on yourself. And today, we're going to dive into the most critical first step, self-awareness. This is the exact question a regional sales manager named Samantha was asking herself. I mean, on paper, she was a total success. But the reality? Her team's performance had completely flatlined. Her career was frozen solid, and honestly, she was just exhausted. She felt like she was running on a treadmill, going nowhere fast, and she had no idea why. Samantha's story probably sounds pretty familiar to a lot of us. We hit that professional plateau, and our first instinct is to just slam our foot on the gas, right? Work longer, push harder. But here's the thing. A lot of the time, the real barrier isn't a lack of effort. It's a lack of insight into what's really holding us back. That's because the way forward isn't some one-size-fits-all solution. Pushing the same buttons won't work for everyone. Your background, your personality, where you're starting from, it all creates a totally unique path to your own next level. So the real key is finding the framework that works specifically for you. And that framework is built on a really simple but powerful idea. Real, lasting growth isn't a straight line to the top. It's a cycle. It's a repeatable loop of discovery and development that actually builds on itself, taking you to higher and higher levels of performance each time you go through it. So, this cycle has 4 key phases. It all starts with understanding yourself. Then you move to managing yourself. From there, it expands outward to understanding other people, and finally, managing your relationships with them. Today, though, we're zeroing in on that critical foundation, the absolute starting point for any real growth, self-awareness. We're going to break self-awareness down into 4 powerful pillars. Just think of these as different lenses you can use to look at yourself. You've got your mindset, which is like your internal programming, your state, which is your daily energy, the roles you play in life, and finally, the objective data from assessments that can show you your blind spots. So let's start with that first pillar, mindset. This is so important. It's like the operating software that's running in the background of your brain all the time. It colors every single perception, decision, and action you take, whether you realize it or not. At its core, your mindset is just built from the stories you tell yourself about who you are, about how the world works. And for Samantha, our sales manager, those stories had become really negative and self-defeating. Without even realizing it, she developed this internal narrative that was actively sabotaging her ability to lead her team. Just think about that one thought. That single story literally created Samantha's reality. Because she told herself this, she started to micromanage everyone. She stopped empowering her team, and what happened? They became disengaged, which only proved her negative belief right. Her mindset created this powerful and destructive self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is why it's so incredibly powerful. Psychologists estimate that up to 95% of our daily thoughts and decisions are driven by this subconscious programming. 95%. That means for most of the day, we're basically on autopilot, being guided by these deep-seated beliefs we almost never stop to actually question. But here's the most important part. You can upgrade this software. It's not fixed. You can consciously curate your influences. Choose who you spend time with. You can literally train your brain to see the positive by practicing things like gratitude. And you can build resilience by reframing every so-called failure as a learning opportunity. But, a great mindset isn't enough if you're running on empty. And this brings us to our second pillar, your state. Let me tell you about David. He was a co-founder with an amazing mindset, but he was right on the verge of burnout because he was completely ignoring his own well-being. See, our state is really a combination of 3 things, and they're all working together. Your physical energy, your emotional mood, and your mental focus. And when any one of these is out of whack, even the best mindset in the world can't help you perform at your absolute peak. For David, the solution wasn't some huge, life-changing overhaul. It was small, consistent changes. He started prioritizing sleep, getting over 7 hours. He took daily walks. And he stopped trying to multitask, instead carving out 90-minute blocks to focus on one single thing. These simple actions recharged his physical, emotional, and mental batteries, and that led to renewed focus, creativity, and way better leadership. Okay, so now let's look at our final two pillars for gaining even deeper insight. First up is roles, and we can see this perfectly through the story of Priya, a director who felt like she was failing everyone because she was juggling so many demanding responsibilities. Priya had this huge aha moment when she actually mapped this out. She realized that her definition of success at work, hitting targets, was totally different from what actually brought her fulfillment, which was mentoring her team and being creative. By chasing one at the expense of the other, she was starving the very things that gave her energy and joy. That misalignment was the real source of her burnout. And finally, to get a truly objective picture, we can use formal assessments. Think of these as tools that act like a mirror, helping us understand things like our natural behavioral style, our deep-down motivators, our emotional intelligence, and our core skills. They're designed to uncover the blind spots we just can't see on our own. Take Michael's journey, for example. His assessments showed him that his direct, results-focused style was coming across as cold and intimidating to his team. He also learned that his core motivation for knowledge was a huge asset, but only if he sought out the right projects. And he saw he really needed to consciously practice empathy. This data didn't just give him cool insights, it gave him a specific action plan to become a better leader. So, okay, after exploring our mindset, our state, our roles, and getting objective data, we have a ton of information. But information alone doesn't create change. The next step, the most important step, is about moving from knowing to doing. And this is the key takeaway right here. Self-awareness gives you the map. It shows you the terrain of you, your strengths, your challenges, your deep motivators. But a map doesn't get you anywhere if you just stare at it. Self-management, that's what begins the journey. It's using that map to take intentional steps, to build new habits, and to consciously choose your direction. Which brings us right back to the beginning. The journey to your next level starts with a simple, honest look in the mirror. So what about you? Just take a moment and think about the internal software you're running right now. What stories are you telling yourself? And are they the ones that are pushing you forward, or are they the ones holding you back?